Good morning, boys and girls. How was your night? Have you woken up and taken breakfast? That is still science. Today, we are learning science and we are continuing with a revision of model test paper 1. We're going to look at question number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And so we start with question number 8. This is a class 5 question. Remember, making whether measuring instruments is learned in class 5. So it's just a reminder. It says, use the diagram of a rain gauge shown to answer questions 8, 9, and 10. That is the diagram. It's a rain gauge. It's a rain gauge. Now, a whole rain gauge must have these features. It must be 45 centimeters long. A whole rain gauge must have 45 centimeters long, must be 45 centimeters long. You must know that. Now, out of these 45 centimeters long, we must have 15 centimeters inside the ground, 15 centimeters in the soil, all right? Right? And 30 centimeters above the soil. You must know this. These are very important facts. Now, it must be made of a metal. It must be made of a metal, reason being to withstand the storms, the harsh weather conditions. Now, that one is, you must be able to know that. And you must refer to class 5. Refer to your class 5 notes, to standard 5 notes. Standard 5 notes. Refer to standard 5 notes and you will know the reason why it must be made of metal. And the reason why it should be 30 centimeters above the ground, 30 centimeters above the ground, and 15 centimeters below the ground. Below the ground. You must know why it must be 15 centimeters below the ground. This is very, very important. Yeah. So that 30 centimeters above the ground to prevent the splashes from the water droplets, as the rain falls, the water would drop outside and splashes in the soil and some other flooded water, and they would skip or jump inside the rain gauge, and that would not give us the correct measurement of the rain that has fallen. And so it must be above the ground. It must be buried 15 centimeters below the ground to check the rate of evaporation, not transpiration, but evaporation. Remember, transpiration is in plants, but this evaporation direct from the sun. So when it is in the ground, it is safe. There will be no evaporation of the rainwater that has been collected. Those are facts you need to know. You need to know the materials needed for making a rain gauge, because it's a requirement. Remember, the syllabus says you must make a rain gauge and you must know, list down the materials. And I would want you to do that for me at home. List down the materials needed. So this is a puzzle for you to answer. The materials needed not only to make a rain gauge, but also, so apart from a rain gauge, boys and girls, look for a wind vane, the materials used for making a wind vane, a windsock, and the thermometers, the two thermometers, the air and the liquid thermometers. please list down those materials. That will be good revision. So you need to know the materials. And another very important thing that you are required to know is the procedure. Procedure of constructing these weather measuring instruments. You need to know the procedure of making them. It's very, very important. And then how to use them. How to use them. And then the last one, the principles. The principles behind their working. Very important information here. So if it's a rain gauge, it works on which principles? How do we get the principles? A rain gauge is used for measuring the amount. How do you know the amount? By collecting. Amount of what? Water. What is water? Water is a state of matter. A liquid is part of matter. And what does matter do? Matter occupies space. And so rain gauge works on the principles of matter occupies space. Now let's go to the windmill. We are talking about the principles. What happens? The windmill measures the direction of wind. The direction of wind. How would you know the direction of wind? The wind must be moving. And so if the wind is moving, that means it's working on the principles that wind in motion. Oh, yeah, air in motion. And let's look at the windsock. Windsock also, it's air in motion, but also the strength. Does it have does it have mass? Does it have mass? And then thermometer works on principles that matter expands on heating and contracts on cooling. So these are very important information about weather rains tomorrow. So therefore, what do we how do we get the answer here? After these arguments, we are able to get the right answer from the choices. What are the distances x and y respectively? X is above the ground, and that should be 30 centimeters. And y is below the ground, and that should be 15 centimeters. So the right answer, boys and girls, the right answer here, respectively. So we must start with x, which is 30, and y, which is 15. So the right answer is D. Let's go to question number 9. The instrument above works on principles of dash. We have already talked about it. And definitely matter occupies space. Right? Now, which one of the following materials best suits the part marked W? It's above the ground. W is above the ground. Or this one, the outer case. That is metal. That is metal. And we have given the reasons that metal would withstand the harsh weather conditions. Withstand harsh weather conditions. All right? That's very important to know that. Now let's come to question number 11. Which one of the following, which one, it's supposed to be one, which one, not all, which one of the following is the reproductive part of a plant? Let's look at the functions of this part of a plant. Leaf, it has the following functions. 1, photosynthesis. Photosynthesis. That happens in the leaves. I don't want to assume that you remember what photosynthesis is. This is the manufacture or the making of food by the green plants. The process by which green plants make their own food is called photosynthesis. I have reminded you. Number 2, transpiration. 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 Transpiration here, again, I don't want to assume. Transpiration is the process by which plants lose water to the atmosphere from the leaves. Then another function of the leaf is respiration. 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 Respiration refers to the process by which green plants exchange gases. You know, they take in oxygen and take out carbon dioxide during the night. But during the day, they take in carbon dioxide and take out oxygen. I hope you do understand. Those are parts of the functions. Again, food storage. Some leaves store food. Food storage. Like the vegetables that we eat, store their food in the leaves, and that's why we eat the leaves. You see, food storage in the leaves. I hope you do understand. I don't want us to go so much on the leaves. Let's look at the fruits. What is a fruit? Now, a fruit here is a fertilized ovary. Some people don't want to use fertilized, but they use ripen, a ripen or ripe. Let's use the word ripe ovary. Ripe ovary is called a fruit. After fertilization, an ovary becomes a fruit. So it is part of a flower. Did I write here leaf? It is supposed to be root, because we cannot repeat the same thing. This is root. Root. The work of the roots is to, one, anchor the plant or hold the plant into the soil firmly. Number two, absorption of water and mineral salts from the soil. You see that? Roots, they anchor the soil. Some roots are food storages. The root tubers, these are the root tubers. They store their food in the roots. Now, let's not so much dwell on the root. Let's come to the flower. Now, flower is the reproductive part of a plant. Yeah, the flower. The flower has the pistil, and the pistil is the female part of the flower. It's also called the carpel. Right? The pistil, the female part of the flower called pistil or carpel. The flower also contains the stamen. Stamen are the male parts of a flower. Apart from that, we have the petals and the sepals. Petals and the sepals. Yeah, apart from that, and the flower stalk. And so we will have completed that. So after discussing all of this, we will now come to a conclusion that our answer is the flower. Because it's in the flower that you have the male part and the female part, and these are the reproductive parts of our plant. Thank you. Question number 12. Which one of the following diseases affects the nervous system of a human being. A. Tetanus, measles, polio, and tuberculosis. I want us to look at tetanus. I want us to look at tetanus as a particular disease. Now, tetanus is also called a lockjaw disease. Lockjaw. Let me consult well. It's a lockjaw disease. A lockjaw disease. Tetanus is also known as a lockjaw disease. It is caused by bacteria. It's caused by a bacteria. Yeah? It's found in the soil or rusting objects and animal dung. Touching animal dung with a cat in your hands, or stepping in the animal dung with a cat in your hands could make you be affected by tetanus. Or rusty objects. Of course, these ones are metals, knives, razor blades, and nails that are rusted. They contain the bacteria that causes tetanus. Soil is also there. So it causes stiffness of the neck and the jaws. That's why it's called a lockjaw disease. That is tetanus. Tetanus germs get into the body through the cuts. Tetanus is immunizable. It's an immunizable disease. Let's look at measles. Measles is an infectious but also immunizable disease. It is immunized against at the age of 9 months. It's caused by a virus. It's caused by a virus. So it's a viral disease. Measles is a viral disease. All right? And so this has so many signs and symptoms: running nose, coughing, fever, rashes all over the body. That is measles for you. Now let's look at polio. We look at polio. Poliomyelitis. Poliomyelitis. Right? Look at poliomyelitis, boys and girls. It's also an immunizable disease. Polio attacks the nervous system. Attacks the nervous system of the body. Polio can cause paralysis if not immunized against. Paralysis. Polio can affect the nervous system, and it can also cause paralysis. It's very, very dangerous. It's an immunizable disease. It's not infectious. It's only immunizable. I hope you have understood. Now let's look at tuberculosis. Now, tuberculosis is a bacterial disease. Tuberculosis is a bacterial disease. This is highly infectious. It's highly infectious. The bacteria of tuberculosis is found in milk that is not pasteurized. Milk that is not boiled. Tuberculosis. It is an airborne disease, and so it spreads in enclosed doors. So it affects different parts of the body. It affects the lungs of a person, the bones, and the intestine. Tuberculosis. Yeah, it mainly attacks the lungs and causes a lot of coughing and coughing and coughing. So it can also be passed from one person to another through sharing utensils, items such as handkerchiefs, utensils like cups and spoons, and even kissing the infected person. Please avoid that. And so it's contagious. It is contagious. It's bacterial. You can say bacterial, contagious, or infectious. Contagious or infectious. Yeah. It attacks the lungs. Mostly the lungs, causing coughing. So from these, we can draw conclusions that the answer is polio. The answer is polio, poliomyelitis. Poliomyelitis. Now the last question today is about the tooth drawn below is used for dash. The functions of various parts of the tooth. This is class 4 work. Class 4 work, boys and girls. You have forgotten. Now, the name of this tooth is the molar. Molar is also called wisdom tooth. Wisdom tooth. Yeah, it has 3 roots. You can see that roots are 3. It has a rough edge. This is rough, right? So its work is to grind, chewing and grinding, It's the last set of teeth that grow in the mouth of a full grown up. There is the premolar. This is a premolar. Its work is to chew and grind. It works the same. It has the same function with the molar. Why? Because the little children who still have milk teeth, because a premolar is a milk teeth, appears also among the milk teeth, they should continue chewing. It would be difficult for them to continue chewing without a tooth that has the same function with the wisdom tooth. So it has 2 root systems. Let's go to this one. This one is an incisor. An incisor, I think I'm correct, I don't know, I can't remember the spelling now. An incisor is flat-edged. Its work is for cutting and biting. Cutting and biting. Now, and the last one is a canine. A canine works as, its work is to tear, so tearing and holding. So we can see the functions of these various teeth. And so now, which is the work of this tooth? Grinding. The work is grinding. And so the answer is D. Boys and girls, you need to know the functions, the characteristics of these teeth. Now, I want to give you an assignment on question 12. List down the communicable diseases and their causes. Communicable diseases, causes, and even their signs and symptoms. List them down. Communicable diseases, their causes, and their signs and symptoms. And then you also write down the immunization schedule for the infants. I believe I have revised up to question 13, and I will continue until we finish the whole paper. Boys and girls, have a lovely day ahead.